We had heard about the bending phones, and that's an issue, but news just coming out here within the last hour that they're pulling the iOS system. What's the problem? Why do they have to pull it, and how significant is it?
Well, as I was saying to Mark Crumpton earlier, the key technology behind a smartphone is the phone, and that wasn't working for a lot of users with this new iOS update. But I think it underscores the complexity that Apple's dealing with in the environment that it's going into. Forget the fact that it's a new phone and new software, period, right? Now, when they first launched the iPhone, they launched just a few million phones, even indeed less than a million in the first weekend, and that was on a single carrier in a single country. Now they're in over 160 countries. They're dealing with tens of thousands of apps, and they've got, of course, many different carriers with different requirements, different technological requirements, even different kind of silicon required to connect to those networks. So there's so much complexity in the environment. Apple has to wrestle with that with every single update.
So I get it. It's tough out there, sure. But, you know, what is it going to mean, Tim Higgins, for Tim Cook? I mean, this is a big test of him here. And consumers are certainly loyal to Apple. But how loyal can they be for how long when things like this happen?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, especially after a weekend of record sales of the new iPhone, 10 million, more than 10 million. The next rollout for more countries comes later this week. So it is a challenge for him. Not only that, it's also the new phones, you know, that you mentioned, they supposedly are bendable. It isn't the first time Apple has had some issues with rolling out products. We saw it with Maps in the past. We've seen it with the iPhone 4 had issues with the antenna. And sales eventually weren't really affected at all.
So they eventually rebounded. And maybe this is what we're seeing from investors today as we watch the stock bounce back and still move higher despite the news. That said, you know, Alex, I was talking to one of our producers who tried to upload this, and she wound up losing a ton of pictures because she hadn't uploaded them to the cloud. I mean, you know, you can only go so far here. If I lost pictures of my children that I couldn't get back, I might be pretty angry at Apple for a while.
And that's been kind of the environment we've seen. People, initially you saw a lot of reviewers who were very excited to get this new interface, and now with all of these problems coming along, remember, this update, you know, one of the reasons they're updating now is to fix HealthKit, which was such an integral part of Tim Cook bringing in this new iPhone with the iWatch coming next year. So if this update, you know, is now shutting off service, this phone right here, no service, no fingerprint ID, and it's just not working. It's no longer a phone.
You were going to jump in.
Yeah, so I have to take the other side of this trade. First, wait, aluminum bends? Who ever knew that metals actually bend? The joke is all these Brooklyn hipsters in their skinny jeans sitting on their iPhones, of course they bend. Second, you never, ever update an OS, whether it's an operating system or a mobile version, until you back up everything and make sure that whatever's on the phone is losable. My assumption
so it's her fault.
No, yeah, whoever loses their pictures, hey, that's rule number one. You never.
Oh, come on,
Barry.
This is 2014. You got to be able to trust this company now.
A
lot of people think,
this is 2014. You should have learned that 20 years ago. Lastly, and the only real issue here that's significant is if the phone doesn't operate as a phone, that's a real serious concern for Apple. My assumption is they'll have this cleaned up by the weekend, but if they don't, it's a problem. All the other stuff we're hearing about is
you're
nonsense.
putting a deadline on them. Corey, he's saying it's got to be cleaned up by the weekend, or then they're going to start having some problems.
They're going to have real.
Do you agree with that? I mean, are they under a time crunch?
As usual, Barry has no idea what he's talking about. I think. No, I'm kidding. Look, I do think that yes, we can blame the user, but the simplicity of the user experience, the taking the things the user can screw up out of the experience, is the difference between Apple and Microsoft historically, is the difference between an iPhone and an Android phone.
I don't like this idea of blaming the user or blaming the customer. I mean, the company has a certain responsibility here, and they ought to have this right before they debut
or an opportunity to get it. If they get it right, they can keep the happy customer. Yes, the user might be at fault, but you don't want to blame your customers. You want to take their money.
So I could blame the customer. I could say, hey, don't update your computer, iPad, iPhone until you move all the photos. Look, I purposefully did not update my iPhone to OS 8 because I have exactly that issue. I have all these photos on it. I have all these recordings.
Did they prompt you? Say, hey, you should update.
No, I just know better. Hey, you know what? I have to take my laptop. I have to do some stuff to it in order to move everything over.
Yeah, and you know not to sit on your phone. Or you just don't wear tight jeans. That's it, right?
I'm not a complete idiot. My wife will tell you I'm a half-wit, but I'm not a complete idiot. Yeah, don't sit on your phone. I don't think you need a big warning that says, don't throw it out the window, don't light it on fire, and don't sit on it.
Don't wear tight jeans.